My name is Katherine Owens, and I am an elementary STEM innovation and entrepreneurship teacher at a school outside of Washington, D.C. called Washington Episcopal School. Today I'm going to talk to you about the ways in which I am innovating in STEM education. The first thing I like to think about when I think about what I am doing in the classroom is really what is my role as an instructor and what is education for. And so when I think about that, I see it as something we are here to prepare our students for their future. And in doing so, it's really important that we not only prepare them, but get them excited about what the future has to hold. And as a teacher, my responsibility is to support them in that way. However, we don't know what job industries are going to look like. The world is globalizing, it's modernizing, there's artificial intelligence, and automation is on the rise. So if we don't know what the future looks like, how do we best prepare them? Also, how do we support social and environmental responsibility in our students so that they really care about the earth and others? And I see it that our next generation science standards is one way with that framework to help support them for their futures. And by doing that, you're looking at the core ideas. So having these ideas that are repeated and deepened and thought about really supports them thinking in the future. And that can be translated cross-disciplinary to different disciplines that they may choose to focus in on. Also the practices, learning how to be creative and problem solvers and have different engineer something. Those again are skills that are really important regardless of what field you go into. And the cross-cutting concepts, again, crossing different disciplines and having that idea that when you learn something in one category, it's not boxed into there, it can be in multiple areas. So, so through STEM education, we can prepare them for their futures. And this is the way that I see it, is that basically, I'm teaching a science class. So the first and most important thing is that I'm teaching them about science in a foundational way. Also, instilling that love and curiosity of how the world works is a key element in what I do in my classroom, and also fostering creativity, because I feel that a lot of times we squeeze out creativity and we say, no, you're doing it wrong, but then when they're in their 20s or 30s, when we want them to be creative and think outside the box, that's been squished out of them. So focusing on how to be creative. Also that connected thinking, so if we're learning about a topic or principle, that can be seen in so many different ways. Focusing on 21st century skills like collaboration, communication, critical thinking. Those are skills that can be seen regardless of what category you choose to go into. And then lastly, having an ability to know how to learn and to love learning. And that is really hard to figure out. And I think that through different projects and the way you can set up your classroom, you can allow children to really understand how they personally learn and then have them love that experience of learning. So, what does this look like in my classroom? So I have three main elements. One is connecting STEM concepts to an application so they can see how what we're learning applies, and also connecting it to things. Also, innovation education, I think, is a wonderful way to support them, and also entrepreneurship. So I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail so I can explain what I mean by everything I've just talked about. So one way to apply what they're learning is I will have a topic or a theme, and that theme will be seen throughout the different units that they're studying. So for example, this is just one of my classes and one of their themes, and the theme is water. So we might be studying renewable energy, but one of the renewable energies is water. I want to go back to that concept of water. Then we do boat engineering. It's in water, and we look at submersibles in water and how that aspect of being in water affects how we engineer things. Also looking at the hydrocycle and looking at how the water cycle and how that's all working, how water is used in our bodies versus in plants, the cohesive and adhesive properties of water and how that affects all those things, as well as the environmental impacts that we need to be concerned about with water. So they're hearing how water is in so many different ways with certain concepts that are being repeated. Then I do this through having projects and different labs, as well as seeing videos, and the students are taken across the world to see what's happening in different areas that we can't get to. Also having speakers come in and also going on study trips. I have a really small budget, and I'm fortunate to be able to find speakers who will come in and do study trips that are often free except for the bus. So this is all very doable. And my right-hand corner, that's Mr. Captain Porter, and he is a submarine captain, and he came and talked to my class, and he was talking about how water influences his job. And one of my favorite facts was when he talked about the length of the submarine is about a football field. And he said if you were to take a string from one side to the other side, have it taut, and then go underwater, that the submarine would condense so that the string would then gap and have like a view kind of thing. And that's basically on the concept of how the submarine is engineered to design to withstand that kind of pressure. And those are things that in an elementary level, they may not have thought of. High school, yes, we're getting up there, but we're trying to get these ideas early. Next, connecting STEM to invention. So we're learning about different principles and concepts. But I don't want to just learn about it and apply it to what we're seeing, in our normal stores or museums, but looking at how it applies to inventions of the past and current. So sticking to the water theme, I have different students in different areas, but the students under the strength thing, that's the Trieste, is a bathtscape, and looking at how that went down to the Marina Trench in the 1960s, and what principles of pressure and buoyancy were applied here for them to come up with how to get this submersible down into the Marina Trench. So this is all input. So the students are learning from things we're talking about and doing. They're inputting the information. But it's so important that they also have this output portion. So taking what we're learning and having them think about how to be creative themselves and use those ideas to be creative to make a difference. And they come up with ideas, and they use the practices of investigating and designing and creating, and this is helping them think about how they can be inventive themselves while using the science concepts that we're learning. And then here's us again, that my students are working in a little mini bathtub where we're mini pool, and they're learning about how to get their boats to float, but what design allows them to stay up the longest. With material, there's a lot of things. I have different challenges going on, but then testing, the revising. So those are those practices. And we come up with great inventions depending on the different challenges that I've given to the students. So whether it's a pencil that lights up at night when you remember, oh my gosh, I didn't do my homework, or I need my soccer cleats, and you can write something down without turning on a light, to different hair apparatuses where kids didn't want to have all the hair in a brush, so they figured out how to make a contraption to pull the leftover hair out of the brush, to renewable energies using solar panels, and that's for a traffic light or a book bag that can charge. And then tying things together. So when my students do inventions, we'll talk about them, and they need to be able to present. One of the ways that I do, my fifth graders, they learn about video, film, and TV from the standpoint of science and technology. So to interconnect their projects of invention, what we do is we do a green screen advertisement. And so that's another way that they can learn technology and what we're learning, but also be able to talk about their product and how that, talk to a consumer about why would you want to buy this? This is what this does. And having that aspect to their understanding of what they're doing. So that leads us right into entrepreneurial thinking. So using STEM and as a catalyst for innovation for entrepreneurial thinking. And I fundamentally believe that it's important that we teach our students about business at an early age. And right here, my students are with the architect of FIOS, fabulous guy, and he came and explained about the internet. So when we talk about entrepreneurship in the classroom, it supports all these things. So projects support creativity, problem solving, fosters business knowledge, encourages an entrepreneurial mindset, and also helps to provide empathy for social and environmental responsibility. So I often get, since I teach elementary,